This is a hell of a betrayal of the American people when you will not tell them the truth because you're afraid that if you tell the truth, your bosses will take your job from you. That's a hell of a thing. You don't have a democracy when you don't have a free press. You're all slaves and you love it. So you deserve what you get. The erosion of your democracy. You'll soon be the laughing stock of the world.
So today, our dear brother, has to be very, very careful in this decision.
Watch for those close around for signs of betrayal. Because it is written in the scriptures of the Bible that in the last days perilous times will come. And betrayal will be one of the marks of the end of the world, because people will feel that they'll be safer betraying a good cause, a just cause, to save their lives.
The West is trying to repeat history. They want to do what they're used to doing, but guess what? Times have changed and we're not going to allow the same thing to happen. What I want us to talk about today is about the similarities between Gaddafi and what is happening to Ibrahim Traore right now as we speak. If you remember, Gaddafi was taken out by the West, and here is a US politician admitting to it.
Libya. We were the ones that caused Gaddafi's death because Hillary Clinton played a game over there, and I was the one that went over there during the war. Gaddafi asked me to come over. I took a Biden staffer and a Bush staffer and a film crew leader from ABC One in New York, Larry Menti, with me, and a cameraman, because I didn't want the CIA to set me up. I hand carried the letter back from Gaddafi offering to resign. The U.S. didn't want him to resign. They wanted to kill him.
Why?
Because Gaddafi, and I met him 3 times. I took Biden on my second trip to Libya, by the way. He went with me when I spoke to the whole country. And every meeting I had with Gaddafi, he wanted 2 things. He wanted to unite the African continent into a group of nations economically, like the European economy. He wanted to base it on the gold standard. And the U.S. and Europe didn't want that. And the other thing is they wanted control of his oil, and they wanted control of his sovereign wealth. So Gaddafi had to go.
As you heard Kurt Weldon admitting that Gaddafi was taken out by the US, this is not a new information for many, but I just wanted to put that out there because this man admits to being involved to what happened to Gaddafi. And what he said in that clip is that there are 2 things Gaddafi was pushing: the unity of African countries and the minerals. He wanted to use his own minerals for him and his own people, and they did not like that. They wanted to tap into that, so they removed him, right? And what did they used to say before they took him out? They used to tarnish his name. They used to say he's using Libya's resources for his personal gain. He's not a good leader. He's a dictator. They smeared his name and then came after him. Now they have begun the first step to what they did to Gaddafi, which is smear Ibrahim Traore's name, the president of Burkina Faso. They have started saying that he's using the gold of Burkina Faso to protect himself instead of using it for his people.
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Traore and Burkina Faso, as they know that both, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the.
Hello, what's up? How are you doing? I'm hoping that you're doing super great from wherever you're watching us from. As you know, these represent Engineering Stories, and I'm hoping that you are super great. Minister Louis Farrakhan talks about something which is really, really important. And that is the most painful truth is that the black betrayal is one of the greatest weapons used by the West to crush resistance. In many cases, the assassination or ousting of radical leader was made possible by a direct Western hand alone, but through internal collaboration. Talk about Lumumba, who was betrayed by Congolese elites. Talk about Thomas Sankara, who was killed by the complicity of his own former comrade. Gaddafi's final days were marked by betrayal from within his ranks. Even Nelson Mandela movement faced years of infiltration and internal sabotage by agents of the West. These betrayals are not merely acts of treason. They are consequences of deep psychological colonization, where some Africans have come to believe that their survival and success are only possible through approval. Farrakhan's warning to Traore is a call to guard against internal enemy within with as much vigilance as the external one. And I find that this topic is really great. It's really great because when we get to understand the rise of black people across the world, and especially this subject matter, President of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, is facing a lot of problems. And Louis Farrakhan is trying to warn Ibrahim Traore that these people might be coming for him and they'll use any person near him to delete him. Most of the times you've seen Ibrahim Traore almost getting killed by his former friend, high school friend. And this shows you the Western tactics, how they use these tactics to make sure that they have taken you down. And when we look at the likes of Thomas Sankara, when you look at the likes of Patrice Lumumba and how they were all betrayed, it is always within the inside. And that's how the Western powers are always trying to make these possible. I don't want to say much at the introductory part, but I want us to watch this video. It is really, really important. And Minister Louis Farrakhan gives a perspective that I feel we all need to have, give it a hear and have to listen what he says, because it's really important. And the only hope that right now we are envisioning, or that one that Africa has right now, is Ibrahim Traore from Burkina Faso. And every high in Africa, at least he is the beacon of hope here. So I want us to watch this video, and then I'll be back. I'll be sharing my thoughts in regards to this. For those who are watching us for the first time, I'll ask you to subscribe to the channel, join the membership, and really get so we can offer you. For those who are always watching my videos, supporting me through my Cash App, sending me super thanks, I'm highly grateful for the support that you're trying to give me. But until then, let's watch the video. I'll be back.
The junta regime.
And so it begins. They first tarnish your name. They say that you're misusing your resources. Mind you, this is Burkina Faso's resource. And Ibrahim Traore is the leader of Burkina Faso at the moment. So as the leader, he's the one that is going to dictate how that gold or how that resource is going to be used. But guess what? The United States want to pick and choose who can run Burkina Faso, who can use the resources. The same thing they did in Libya. And look at Libya right now, and look at what they were able to do to Libya. So now when they're trying to repeat history, guess what the people of Burkina Faso and Africans as a whole are saying? We're saying no, it's not going to happen. History is not going to repeat itself because we will not allow it.
That there is no king, no ruler, no prophet who enjoys 100% the love of his people. That has never happened in these 6,000 years. And it certainly is not so in America, and it was not so in Libya. I never lived in Libya, so I don't know Libya like the Libyans know Libya. But I know something of the good of Muammar Gaddafi that made me to love him as a brother, and to feel a great sense of loss at his assassination. Before I say to the public some of the things that Brother Gaddafi did that can be proved at no limit of time, I'd like to read to the public Brother Gaddafi's last will and testament that came out sometime yesterday. As you know, Brother Muammar Gaddafi was offered asylum in other countries. He refused to leave Libya. And as you know, he said he would be martyred in Libya. This is where he lived, this is where he would fight, and this is where he would die. So I'd like to read this will, and I want you to listen carefully to his words. He said, "This is my will. I, Muammar bin Mudabbir bin Muhammad bin Abdussalam bin Humaid bin Abu Manya bin Humaid bin Nail al-Fusi Gaddafi, do swear that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger, peace be upon him. I pledge that I will die as a Muslim." This was written on the 17th of October. He said, "Should I be killed, I would like to be buried according to Muslim rituals in the clothes I was wearing at the time of my death, but with my body unwashed in the cemetery of Sirte next to my family and relatives. I would like that my family, especially the women and children, to be treated well after my death. The Libyan people should protect its identity, achievements, history, and the honorable image of its ancestors and heroes. The Libyan people should not relinquish the sacrifices of the free and best people. I call on my supporters to continue the resistance and fight any foreign aggressor against Libya today, tomorrow, and always. Let the free people of the world know that I could have sold out our cause in return for a secure and stable personal life. I received many offers to this effect, but chose to be at the vanguard of the confrontation as a badge of duty and honor. Even if we do not win immediately, we will provide a lesson to future generations that choosing to protect the nation is an honor, and selling it out is the greatest betrayal that history will forever remember, however they try to portray this. This was the end of his will. He was killed in a military uniform. He wanted to be buried in the khaki clothes that he was wearing. And of course, you heard the news that they took his body out in the middle of the night. He and his son, Mutassim, who we have in a picture meeting with Hillary Clinton a year and a half ago and shaking hands with Secretary of State Clinton, which should show the world that shaking hands with your enemy and receiving a pat on the back from your enemy should never lull you to sleep that the enemy has changed. The enemy is the enemy. And when you fall asleep on that knowledge, that is when the enemy will take us out. The betrayals of his inner circle. Don't think that that is overseas. That is in our own house. And we today need to watch for those close around, for signs of betrayal. Because it is written in the scriptures of the Bible that in the last days perilous times will come. And betrayal will be one of the marks of the end of the world, because people will feel that they'll be safer betraying a good cause, a just cause, to save their lives. Gaddafi died in honor, fighting for the Libya that he believed in. They would never have won if NATO was not bombing day in and day out. Brother Ali Baghdadi, that is a writer and a great Arab writer, said they bombed Libya back to the Stone Age. We were in Libya. We saw Libya being built from the ground up. We witnessed what this man did for the Libyan people. And for NATO to have bombed it like this, watch for Halliburton, watch for Bechtel, watch for the vultures of London, England, and France, and others trying to rebuild the infrastructure that they purposely destroyed, which is against international law. You went for humanitarian purposes, yet 50,000 Libyans lie dead because the West wanted access to the wealth of Libya. Now let me tell you what this man did. Did he kill people? Well, hell, did our president kill people? Talk back to me. Yes. You have made your president an assassin. That the only value that he has now is that he was responsible for the death of Osama bin Laden. He was captured without a weapon. He should have been brought to America, put on trial for the American people to see this man. But he was executed, so you will never know the real truth. Then Alaki, an American citizen who is against America's policies, a drone took him out and then came back later and killed his son. Now Muammar Gaddafi and his sons lie dead. Saddam Hussein and his sons lie dead. Well, what about your sons? They're dying in Iraq on the basis of a lie. They're dying in Afghanistan on the basis of a lie. And now drones are in Pakistan, drones in Somalia, drones in Yemen. When will it stop? America, do you think that you can get away with this? If it's time for another commercial, then you go on and take the commercial. I'm just warming up.
Yes, all right. Thank you, Brother Minister. Brother Minister, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is in our studio. Stay with us.
You're watching The Media Connection, and we are joining WVON talk show host Cliff Kelly as he talks to Minister Louis Farrakhan about the killing of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi.
It wasn't any money that he loaned to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or that he loaned to the Nation of Islam and forgave for $5 million that he loaned us, for you to think that I am that kind of prostitute, that I would give myself to any man for money. It's the principle that made me his brother. Now look at what this man did. After nationalizing the oil, he used the oil revenue to benefit the Libyan people, building schools, infrastructure, universities, hospitals. He raised the literacy rate from 20% when he became the leader And at the time of his assassination, it is 83%. Libya has one of the finest healthcare systems in the third world. All people have access to doctors, hospitals, clinics, and medicines free of charge. If a Libyan needs surgery that is unavailable in Libya, funding is provided for the surgery to be carried out overseas. He raised the life expectancy of the Libyan people from 44 years, and now at the time of his assassination, 75 years of age. Basic food items were subsidized and electricity was made available throughout the country. Brother Muammar Gaddafi has set up huge irrigation projects which were established in order to support a drive toward agricultural development and food self-sufficiency. He spent $33 billion on the man-made river, where his engineers brought water up out of the desert, and now pipelines ran from Benghazi and Tobruk almost to the door of Tunisia. Any Libyan who wanted to become a farmer was and still is given free use of land, a house, farm equipment, livestock, and seed. Brother Muammar Gaddafi vowed that his own parents, who lived in a tent in the desert, would not be housed until every Libyan was housed. He fulfilled that promise. Under the revolutionary leadership of Muammar Gaddafi, Libya has now attained the highest standard of living in Africa. Money from Libya's oil revenue is directly deposited into the bank account of every Libyan. Women have full access to education, employment, and he has enabled women to serve in the armed forces. And this is most important. Gaddafi was the first and the only leader in the Arab world to formally apologize for the Arab role in the trade in captured Africans. Gaddafi acknowledged that the black Africans were the true owners of Libya and proclaimed in his Green Book, quote, "The black race shall prevail throughout the world." Now, Brother Gaddafi took oil money and started moving the Organization of African Unity toward the African Union, with a goal toward uniting 53, now 54 nations in Africa to the United States of Africa. Whenever we called Africa, our call had to go through Europe, and over $500 million went to Europe. But Gaddafi put up 400 million, and the rest of Africa put up 100 million and put up an African satellite. Now you can call directly to Africa from anywhere in the world without going through Europe. He asked the African nations to stop sending their raw materials to Europe to be made into products and then sent back to Africa to be paid for in an exorbitant price range. He wanted the Africans to take their raw materials and make them into products and then sell their products on the world market. This is the man that was assassinated, and I'll close this point. The minute he wanted Africa united, America, Britain, France, Germany, Europe was against it. So they set up NEPAD, a new economic development pact. Gaddafi was against it. Sarkozy came up with another plan to take all the North African nations that are Arab and unite them with the nations of Southern Europe. Gaddafi rejected that. America wanted to set up on the African continent African as a launching pad for the recolonization of Africa. Gaddafi was against that. I read an article by the Jewish man from a Zionist that was the former assistant to Rumsfeld. I can't call his name. Who? Pearl? No, not Pearl. Wolfowitz.
Wolfowitz, yeah.
Wolfowitz.
Hold your point, Minister. We got to go to a top of the hour break. That's the kind of information that I wanted you to give us.
You're watching The Media Connection, and now we're going to hear some candid words from Minister Louis Farrakhan as he speaks to the media and their role in exposing what he believes is the truth that is not being told. Let's join Cliff Kelly and Minister Louis Farrakhan.
This is a hell of a betrayal of the American people when you will not tell them the truth because you're afraid that if you tell the truth, your bosses will take your job from you. That's a hell of a thing. You don't have a democracy when you don't have a free press. You're all slaves, and you love it. So you deserve what you get, the erosion of your democracy. You'll soon be the laughing stock of the world. It's a damn shame. That's why the children are occupying space in New York, in Boston, in Washington, in Chicago, in San Francisco, and other cities. Why? Because they're not looking to you as a source of information for them. Look how long it took you all to talk about what was going on in New York. It took you 2 weeks because the same people that controlled the banks controlled the media. You all know it, but you're afraid to say it. But God put it on Farrakhan to say it for you. And maybe one day you'll get some courage to stand up and give America free media, a real free fourth estate. But right now, you ain't even worth the time of day. You need somebody to tell the truth.
That's right.
You need.
I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think God would give his only begotten son for this world?
Think about it.
This thing. Look at the world that you live in. How rotten it is. We voted for our brother, Barack. Beautiful human being with a sweet heart. And now he's an assassin. They've turned him into them. You didn't hear me. They turned. They brought him to England. See? Oh, now he can stay in Buckingham Palace. Nobody stayed there. Just a few presidents. Why him? Why? See, we know this enemy. See, America can sit down tyrants, but who will sit her down? She puts her trust in her weapons of war. She threatens the nations of the earth and has my brother calling for the assassination of brother Muammar Gaddafi. What has he done? I can defend that man. You don't know that man. See, you're a victim of that media that's controlled by satanic forces. My poor brother, they're bombing. They said they were only going over there for humanitarian reasons. We're going to stop Gaddafi from killing his own people, and we believe that. You've been deceived. You talk about a man killing his own people when you lie to the American people saying that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. When you lie and then take innocent young men who come to serve their country and send them to die in Iraq, in Afghanistan, over lies, that's a murderer in the White House. Who will say it? I will. because I have a power behind me that is bringing America to judgment as we speak.
Hello, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching me from now. Minister Louis Farrakhan issues a warning to Captain Ibrahim Traore. It gives a prophetic tradition of black leadership that recognizes the danger posed by Western power to any African leader who dares to assert their independence. Traore, a young and a defiant revolutionary who has openly challenged French neocolonialism and imperial control, stands as a symbol of renewed African resistance. Now, Farrakhan's warning is speculative. It's not merely speculative. It is based on historical patterns. It is based on historical patterns in which the West has systematically undermined or eliminated African and Caribbean leaders who chose path of sovereignty, self-determination, and economic liberation, from Patrice Lumumba to Muammar Gaddafi. The West has repeatedly demonstrated that any leader who threatens its control over African resources and political influence becomes a target for assassination, destabilization, or regime of change. Also, you need to understand the essence of Farrakhan's message is to emphasize that Western governments do not respect African leaders unless it serves the economic and geopolitical interest. Ibrahim Traore's decisions to sever ties with France, reject foreign military bases, and nationalize strategic industries pose a direct threat to Western corporations and government accustomed to exploiting African wealth with local collaborators. Farrakhan, who has spent decades warning black leaders around the world about the dangers of Western deceit, cautions Traore not only to watch the foreign enemy, but also to be wary of traitors within, those African elites who have long sold their people's future for access to wealth, power, and Western approval. The warning will be both spiritual and strategic. You get to understand that we have some people that will really sell you out if they are given a bounty. And Minister Louis Farrakhan tries to warn Ibrahim Traore that they are coming for you because they know that you'll stop them from getting whatever thing they are getting. And so it's like you need to get prepared. You need to be ready to fight back. You need to have your own ways of fighting all this. So I feel like the warning is really, really important. Also, throughout the modern history, many African and Caribbean leaders began their careers as nationalists and champions of the people, only to later bow before Western powers when offered the illusion of progress through foreign aid, military support, or access to global financial systems like the IMF or World Bank. These systems, designed and controlled by Western nations, are not charitable institutions. They are tools of domination. Farrakhan has consistently argued that the global power structure is rooted in white supremacy and capitalistic exploitation, which means it has no interest in genuine African advancement. When leaders betray their own people to please the West, they become complicit in a long circle of dependency, underdevelopment, and internal decay. Traore, therefore, must resist the temptation or to compromise, no matter the pressure or the reward that he has been promised that he'll be given. Also, one of the most painful truths that Mr. Farrakhan tells is that the betrayal of the black betrayal is one of the greatest weapons used by the West to crush resistance. In many cases, the assassination or ousting of radical leader was made possible by direct Western hand alone, but through internal collaboration. Lumumba was betrayed by Congolese elites. Thomas Sankara was killed with the complicit of his own former comrade. Gaddafi's final days were marked by betrayal from within his remarks. Even Nelson Mandela's movement faced years of infiltration and internal sabotage by agents of the West. These betrayals are not merely acts of treason, they are consequences of deep psychological colonization, where some Africans have come to believe that their survival and success are not only through Western approval. Farrakhan's warning to Traore is a call to guard against this internal enemy with such vigilance as the external one. But while Ibrahim Traore is keenly under the surveillance, looking the Western powers, those people might choose somebody within inside to make life really hard for him. And this has happened. Farrakhan addresses the spiritual and cultural dimension of leadership. He has long taught that the liberation of black people is not only political and economical, but also mental and spiritual. A leader like Traore, who challenges colonial structures, must also cultivate a consciousness rooted in dignity, history, and moral courage of his people. Western propaganda often portrays such leaders as dictators, radicals, or threats to global stability. This is deliberate. It is an old colonial tactic to dehumanize and to delegitimize any African leader who refuses to be a puppet. Farrakhan urges Traore not to seek legitimacy from the West, but from his people and from the righteous legacy of African liberation movements. This means building institution of self-reliance, investing in Pan-African solidarity, and rejecting the poisonous idea that African development must look like European modernity. Also, at the heart of the West aggression is its economic interest. Africa remains the richest continent in terms of natural resources. That's gold, oil, rare minerals, and agricultural potential. Yet it is the poorest in terms of economic freedom and development. The contradiction exists because the wealth of Africa continues to fuel the economies of Europe and North America throughout exploitation. When leaders like Traore demand control over his nation's gold, uranium, or oil, he is not just making an economic claim, he is challenging the very foundation of Western power. Farrakhan reminds Traore that empires do not give up power voluntarily. They will send NGOs, they will send mercenaries, intelligence agents, media propaganda, and even proxy wars to destabilize any nation that threatens their interest. Economic independence must therefore be defended with ideological clarity and military readiness. Also, Farrakhan stresses the importance of unity among black nations and movements. He has always urged that no African country can stand alone against imperialism. Traore's survival depends not only on his courage but on the solidarity of neighboring nations and the diaspora. Burkina Faso's alliance with Mali and Niger in forming the Alliance of Sahel States is a bold and historic movement in the direction Farrakhan has long envisioned. A unified black front against colonial exploitation, but such unity must go beyond politics. It must be backed by shared economic vision, joint security, infrastructure, and deep cultural commitment to self-determination. Only through such solidarity can Africa begin to break the chains of century-long domination. Another crucial point that Louis Farrakhan raises is the need for ideological education. Many revolutionaries fail, not because of military defeat, but because of ideological confusion. If masses are not educated about why they are fighting, they become vulnerable to propaganda and manipulation. Traore therefore must invest in a political education campaign that teaches the youth and broader population about Pan-Africanism, anti-imperialism, and economic sovereignty. Schools, media outlets, religious institutions, and cultural centers must all become sites of resistance and awakening. As Farrakhan has often said, you cannot free people without first freeing their minds. The revolution must be both internal and external. Lastly, Farrakhan's caution Traore that the West's final move when all else fails is character assassination. They will paint him as a tyrant, a madman, a terrorist. They will use the internal media, human rights organizations, and social media campaigns against delegitimizing him. Farrakhan has endured this tactic himself and has always warned others not to chase validation from enemies who seek their destruction. Traore must remain firm, transparent with these people, and rooted in integrity. If people believe in him, no amount of Western slander can break that bond. His ultimate protection is not the West's opinion, but the love, trust, and empowerment of his own citizens. As you know, these are presented Jinto Stories, and I'm hoping to see you in my next video. But until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salute.